In today's conversation, we'll be delving deeper into how some social enterprises are empowering women to build a life in which they can thrive. At this point, I will be handing the time over to Claire, head of DBS Foundation, who will be moderating the conversation today. Claire, please.
Hi, very good afternoon to everyone. Thanks for joining us on this very thundery afternoon here in Singapore, and maybe some of you are dialing in from other parts of Asia or the world. Very good afternoon to everyone. Today, we're going to be discussing the topic of building communities with purpose, uplifting women, and changing lives. And I think this is a really important topic for us to really consider today. As I was preparing for this seminar, I was actually thinking to myself that maybe for some of us here living in Singapore, perhaps this is not an issue that maybe is first on our minds. I think speaking for myself, I work in a bank where there is, significant women represented. I think our workforce here in Singapore is like 60% women, 40% make up senior management. And even, I guess, in my own personal life, my husband supports me in my work. And so sometimes I think I forget that there are many issues out there where women are not given the types of opportunities that we would love for them to have. And I think that's what makes today's conversation, I think, important and interesting, and I hope eye-opening for all of us as we meet some of the social entrepreneurs that DBS Foundation has worked with over the years. And really, I think I would love to have this conversation today for some of these people. I was going to say ladies, men, gentlemen and ladies here on our panel today to, I think, open our minds and open our eyes to the different types of challenges and opportunities that they see in the communities that they represent. So I think without further ado, I'm just going to go around and I'm going to invite our panelists to share a little bit about their journey, about why they think supporting women in the community is important, and what their organizations are doing to help us to do that. So let's kick off. Maybe Vanessa, you want to start, and then followed by Melia and then Anil.
Sure. Thanks, Claire. Thanks for the lovely introduction. So I think that's a very powerful question to start, like what uplifting women means to us. And as an organization with Freedom Cups, by way of a quick introduction, what we do is that we deal with the issue of periods. So we get reusable menstrual products to women who can't afford sanitary items. I hope the thunder is not too distracting. But basically what we believe in on a very, very basic and fundamental level is that we want to provide women with the tools and the support they require to partake in society on an equal footing as their male counterparts. So like Claire mentioned, I think it's not as obvious in slightly more developed economies. So for example, like in Singapore, but like in the communities that we work with across Asia and Africa, you see how periods, a very, very basic, fundamental, natural bodily function, holds women back. So what we do is that we get these reusable menstrual cups to women. We work on a buy one, give one model. And for everyone that we sell to someone who can afford it, we give one for free to somebody who can't. And I think the main aim with Freedom Cups is to, in the medium to long term, is to negate the consequences of women having periods, and I think the hypothesis here is that if you can negate the consequences of having a period, then you go some way towards narrowing gender inequality. Now, a menstrual cup is, why we thought of a menstrual cup is because, it's long-term, it's sustainable, it lasts for many years, it's not one of those interventions that requires constant pumping into. And, it's reusable, it's economical, what we find is that it creates little to no waste, it allows women full mobility. So I think I would just like to share two examples just to give some of the viewers a sense of the work that we do and how periods are holding women back, and how we think it's a key function towards uplifting women at a very fundamental level. So for example, in the Philippines, we work a lot with women who are sugarcane plantation laborers. So they are indentured laborers and they work on sugarcane plantations. And what happens is that they usually go down to the plantations in the morning at like 7 a.m. and they come back after the sun sets. And so over the course of that period, many of them don't go to work simply because there are no toilets. So there are no toilets on the field, so they miss work. And I think like Claire mentioned, for women like, Claire and myself, like, we miss 5 to 7 days of work a month. It's fine. We still have money in the bank. We still have food on the table. But, for daily wage laborers, the situation is extremely different. Another example would be our work in Nepal. We've done a lot of work in Duncha. In Duncha, it's the epicenter of the 2015 earthquake, the large one. And what we're finding is that because a lot of the girls go to boarding schools, it's almost impossible for them to use cloth, which is the traditional method that most of our grandmothers use as well. So it's one of those things where we found that parents who have taken out loans to pay for this pay for their kids' boarding schools are also taking out extra loans to pay for products like menstrual products, So those are two examples of how we think that, periods are holding women back, and how at a very fundamental level, our uplifting of them just constitutes being able to help them deal with something so basic. So yeah, I hope that's a good introduction. I'll pass the time over to Milia.
Thank you so much, Vanessa. Over to you, Milia. Milia is from Duanyam in Indonesia. So Milia, please tell us a little bit about what you do and about the women in your communities, and how the work that Duanyam does really helps to uplift the women there.
Yes, thank you so much, Claire. So Duanyam is a social enterprise based in Indonesia. We produce wicker crafts such as basketries, like this one, I hope you can all see, as well as straw bags, wallet, and name tags for corporate souvenirs to economically empower and improve the livelihood of women in rural areas in Indonesia. We are now empowering more than 1,200 women weavers across 3 provinces in Indonesia, providing alternative employment through wicker weaving products, which is a skill that has been passed through generations. Duanyam was founded in 2014 to tackle maternal and children's health issues through economic empowerment by providing additional cash for women to be financially independent and be able to access health services, children's education, and to purchase nutritious foods. In Duanyam, we run an end-to-end business model. So we take control from the design, production, to marketing of every product produced. We market the wicker products to mostly corporate for their corporate souvenirs, hotel amenities, and export in home decoration. Duanyam's main goal is actually to empower women and improve the livelihood, because we believe that by empowering the women, we are actually empowering the whole family, including their children. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Milia. And last but definitely not least, we have Anil from Agape Connecting People. Well, very proud to have been working with Anil in the past year, and he was also recently awarded the President's Volunteerism and Philanthropy Awards. And I think Anil would love to hear more about the work that you have been doing amongst the women here in Singapore. You're muted, Anil.
Okay, can you hear me? Okay, I think we've heard this statement being made many times: behind every man, there's always a woman. That's very true to my own story. If you know the whole gist of it, what Agape Connecting People does, it runs a contact center in the heart of the Singapore prison, in the women's prison. So this premises is at about 120-seater, this one area. Second call center is found in the heart of the city in Tai Seng. That's the commercial side. So actually what happened is that this interesting idea, what we do is we run a call center. You might be thinking, how do you run a call center in a prison environment, especially Singapore, women's prisons are maximum security? Well, it's possible. Many matters were addressed, but impossible became possible. Now, give you an idea of what exactly is a life in a prison for a woman. She spends 23 hours a day. If she's serving a 1-month sentence or a 20-year sentence, the lockup period is 23 hours. You get 1 hour recreation time to go out and very little time. So for 23 hours in a room, if you are in an environment where 3 or 4 other prison inmates are with you, can you imagine if the 4 people are all of different crimes? Let's just say one of the ladies say, oh, what did you do? Oh, I took designer's drug. The other one says, what did you take? Oh, I took heroin. It becomes a platform of exchanging knowledge, and you become criminally more active, more exposed to the darker and deeper side of things in life. Because you know what, garbage in, garbage out. Lock yourself into a room for a few days, come out 1 hour a day. You will see the stronger person will be the one who will transform your mind into behaving just the way the person wants. That's the environment in prison. So now, how do I know this? The transformation comes from the transforming of your mind. I spent a long 8 years of my life in a prison cell, sentence serving time. And you know what? That's what was happening. And then I had this opportunity to come out of the cell and was given a little bit of work. So here I found the work was the one that kept me sane and that was able to help to change my thought processes and values. So the idea of setting up the Women's Prison Call Center, the fact is that 80 to 90% of women are in prison because of their influence they had from their husbands, their boyfriends, their lovers. It's a reality. And that's how crime got introduced to them. And this data is actually found on Google. You can Google it. Recently was reported as well. So what we did, if we can take them out 8 hours a day from their cell, provide them meaningful job, not any kind of job, not a job that is a no-brainer kind of job, like it's just assembly, but a job that will require your entire 5 senses to be actively engaging. This is when we begin to find, and my agape strong belief is that redemption comes from work. Work is the powerful redeemer. It will reconcile back you to society. It will reconcile you back to your family, your loved ones. And we are teaching this woman that the only way that you can come out strong is in doing what you are doing and do it good. In the call center environment, right, we learn a lot of the work that are life skills. You may think that call center, what could it possibly give you? Now, one of the many things that they learn is effective listening. I had this problem about listening. My dad told me, my mom told me, but yet I did not listen. I winded up in prison. So what they learn is effective listening in a call center because customers, when they call you, you got to listen. And that's effective communication. These 2 skills alone are life skills that can be brought to the family table. When you talk to your loved ones, your kids, these are life skills. And then in the area of even like they call 100 calls, 80% of the calls are rejected because they don't want to talk to you because you're trying to solicit a sale. But it actually builds perseverance. So what we tell them that if you are good and your attitude shines, you are guaranteed a place in our city office, a job. That means to say whatever they are doing now in the moment, they are working for a future. They are all working hard towards it. And that's when the call center started. And it was very effective. We were seeing outcome. Customers were very happy because they saw the quality was really amazing. Now, why is the quality and productivity amazing? Because there are no handphones, there are no distractions. They are completely focused. So we are able to transform their minds where new habits, new attitude, new character is developed, and they become good at that. Now, the second portion, when DBS comes into our life, when we say, let's do training, let's partner in this together. DBS comes in, now we are a WSQ, Skill Certified Training Academy. So the girls in the prison have actually got a valid WSQ certificate. And next year, quite a number of them are going to graduate with a WSQ diploma, and we know the value of a certified WSQ diploma, economical value that is. So this is what we do. We are seeing lives being transformed using work as the biggest and most powerful redeemer and transformer. That's what we do.
Thank you so much, all of you. Thanks, Vanessa, Amelia, and Anil, for sharing the work that you do. And I think actually each of you shared, as each of you were sharing, I think it was a reminder to me of why we do what we do. So myself, I'm Claire, and I represent DBS Foundation. And for us at DBS Foundation, we champion social entrepreneurship. We were started in 2014. And the reason why we do that actually is the reasons that you all brought up, which is that we believe that, you know, we want to empower, in this case, we want to empower women, we want to uplift communities in a very sustainable way, you know, whether it's like what Anil talked about, you know, really providing them with that training certification so that after that they can get jobs, you know, and that really helps them restore their dignity. Or whether, you know, like Milia was sharing about the women in communities, by providing them with jobs through Du Anyam, you know, again, you know, there is a sustainable way of really helping them. And Vanessa spoke about, I think, even more fundamentally, even just helping them to have access, right, to be able to even go to school or sustain a job without, you know, in places where there's not even sanitation facilities. I think these are very we feel that by supporting entrepreneurs like yourselves, you know, I think it is a way of really continuing to support women in the communities that you are active in. And that's a very fundamental belief that we have. And that's why it's always really encouraging just talking to all of you and seeing the work that you are doing. But I'm also sure, I'm sure that in your lives and in the work that you do, I'm sure you encounter many challenges because, well, I mean, there are many reasons why people would, I guess, challenging the status quo often is not something people like or are used to. So maybe you want to share a little bit about what are some of the challenges that you have faced in the work that you do, whether it's naysayers or people who just thought maybe you were crazy. What were some challenges and what have you learned through those challenges? Who wants to start us off? Who has faced the most challenges?
I'll start with that.
Okay.
There are various kinds of challenges. One is an internal challenge. The other one is an external challenge. But I'll talk about the external challenge. This is a very real scenario here. Now, the fact that we do produce a good amount of quality outcomes, we have got a list of some of the best clients, right? But whenever I would to meet a potential client, the first thing that comes to the mind is that, oh, dealing with ex-offenders, will I get the kind of outcome that I want? There's a lot of this preconceived ideas. And I wind up spending quite a bit of time to give a proof of concept, help them to overcome this. This is the first one. When I help them to overcome that, right, the second challenge I get is, they somehow or other they begin to think that they're going to do us a favor, and they ask for a price that is like probably be done in India or Philippines. No offense to anyone. That's the way, the challenge that I face. But not everyone is like that. But these are the two most common challenges that I face. And I'm hoping that over time, that these preconceived ideas can be converted to confidence that actually, when you do this, we have redefined CSR because you are actually able to see a tangible outcome, able to see a tangible outcome of a girl's lives being transformed. You're able to see a family being reconciled, a tangible outcome. But that's a challenge that I'm facing, helping to move the market towards a different process.
All right, I'll start. In Du Anyam itself, we see that there are two challenges that we are still experiencing working with women communities in different villages and different provinces. The first challenge is to actually customize our training to be most fitted to each community, where we need to adjust our approach due to cultural variations and local contexts. We need to be somewhat put ourselves into the community perspective to understand their needs and their priorities, so that whenever Du Anyam is trying to expand its reach to a new area, we need to make sure that we understand the needs from the community and we see that there is an opportunity that Du Anyam can work together with the community to achieve that goals. Another important point in this challenge is basically to have a local leader who can support us to lead and to motivate the women to be able to achieve those goals. And the second challenge would be when we start to market the products. So when there is an increase in demand, we need to make sure that we have a sufficient supply to be able to meet the growing demand, right? Because as a social enterprise, our business needs to be sustainable, to be able to provide a sustainable impact as well to the community. In Duanyam's case, our weavers work not in full-time mode. They work about like 3 to 4 hours a day because they still need to juggle with the doing household chores, doing agricultural things in farming, and taking care of the kids and so on. So that Duanyam needs to constantly recruit and expand its reach to be able to get more women in our production chain. And this is an option that we actually as a company choose, as a social enterprise choose to work with the underprivileged women in the villages so that they can grow and they can see opportunities to actually get a better living. I think those are the two challenges that we are still see, especially when we are trying to expand our impact to not only in one specific area in Indonesia, but basically in the whole Indonesia.
Yeah, and I think for us, just to echo what Melia and Anil has previously said, I think for us, our challenges can be divided into 3 main segments. So one is the sheer scale of the problem that we're dealing with. I think the second one would be the shame, the silence, and the stigma that surrounds the issue of periods and women's bodies. And I think the third one would be more technical, would be the structure. And I think DBS is doing great work in supporting social enterprises, but I think that's another one. So I mean, I'll start with the first one. I think it wasn't until we started Freedom Cups that we realized the absolute scale of the issue. Women everywhere are dealing with the issue or with the problem of periods. The problem takes different like shapes and forms. But I mean, whether it's like pollution or cost or access or the tax that you pay on these products or stigma, for example. But the problem exists. It exists in the US, it exists in India, it exists in Vietnam, it exists here in Singapore. And whether or not you're rich or poor, or like it's rural or urban, or we're talking about developing, or like east versus west, the problem exists. So I think that's the first one, the first big problem that we're facing, the sheer scale of it. I think the second one would be the fact that women's bodies and reproductive health and gender justice are all issues that are clothed or like shrouded in this shame and silence and stigma, and because of that, women know so little about our bodies. So for example, like the cost of sale of one of these cups requires us as a company to educate women about their bodies. Very, very basic things like where the cup goes, will it get lost, will it get stuck, and so I think that's one of the pieces of it. But also I think the last one would be the fact that like the structure of it, the fact that as a social enterprise, all 3 of us are straddling this space between being a full for-profit and being an NGO or a non-profit. And I think this space is very, very new. It's very, very new, and many people don't know how to deal with it. So for example, like Anil gave the example of people saying, oh, you should be giving us a discount if we're helping you or helping your beneficiaries. But no, you're giving you a product at the market rate. So I think those are the 3 issues that I would think a lot of social enterprises face, not just us, but in particular, these would be the 3 that I would single out.
So in dealing with the challenges and the issues that you have faced, have you seen changes in the attitudes towards women or towards the work that you do, from the time you started? Like, how have you, I mean, what are some, I guess, maybe small wins or bigger wins that you have seen, like for Anil, in people's attitudes towards, former inmates? Have you seen people's attitudes change? Same with, I guess, Melia and Vanessa. Where do you think this whole, I guess, issue is headed in a sense?
In my case, the attitude has changed quite a bit actually. We are now, I'm very proud to say that my staff is being headhunted by organizations, and that's the best news that can come. To me, is that the final chapter of their lives is when they're headhunted, where they're willing to offer a better premium to get them work in their business. And I think that's probably whole, it's the best reward I can get for these individuals. And being headhunted is really being appreciated, and especially hand-holding them, monitoring them, upgrading their skill set, getting them the relevant exposure, the certificates of WSQ framework and all. It's just creating, they're just going to be highly demand. They're going to get better salary. When they have better salary, they got more confidence. When they got more confidence, right, they can tell any man in their life, I don't need you. They will know how to go into relationship with their eyes open, not being from the underhand side of things. I say that because I interact with them, and I say this. I'm not saying this to offend the guys. Don't feel offended. The thing is that the reality is that when they are economically sustainable, women are confident. They become better mothers. They become better decision makers. And I feel that work is and it's Agape's responsibility and job and vision to empower them through that platform. And we are doing it, and we're happy with the way the outcome is happening. It's just that we want to scale up to 2 times the number. Now, more people to address, more people to change their thought process. It's a journey again, but it's possible.
Yes, I think in Duanyam, we are proud to share that, after 6 years working with the women communities, we have seen a lot of changes, especially in women's role, not only in the family, but also in the society. The women in Duanyam are generally more confident to show their ability to be financially contributing to the family. That brings them to gain decision-making power in the family for herself and especially for the children. I think I'm going to share a little bit of a short story about one of the weavers who joined Duanyam back in 2014. Her name is Mama Milis, a 40-year-old mom with 3 kids who lives in a village in East Nusa Tenggara. She was one of the first 8 weavers who joined Duanyam back in 2014, and she has been having strong interest in wicker weaving since she was little. So she registered to join our program, and then she started to allocate her time to create wicker products every day, juggling between doing her household chores and farming. And after joining Duanyam for weeks, her husband, who didn't believe in our program, started to prohibit her in doing wicker weaving related activities. And up to the point where the husband threatened to burn all the wicker products if she is still doing it. But her passion made her continuously working with us. And once she actually started to earn her own income, she rarely asks for money to the husband to actually buy foods or like buying to purchase like other daily necessities. And one day her husband realized that Mama Milis' activities actually had brought ease to the family and ended up like giving the full support to his wife. Through this story, Mama Milis not only continuing her passion in wicker weaving, but she actually becoming a more confident woman who can financially contribute to her family needs, as well as gaining the decision-making power together with the husband to decide things as simple as, what to eat tomorrow, or like deciding for their children's education. So Mama Milis is one of the 1,200 women weavers that we have empowered, each with different story, different needs, and different backgrounds. Yet the feeling of being part of the women community in Duanyam has positively increased the exposure of every woman to be confident and realize that women has the same opportunity at the end to learn and to uplift their lives outside just being home, of course. So in Duanyam, we value that, confidence or self-esteem is not the only one, the only matters, but we also learn that women need to be able to speak up as well for herself. So we conduct many trainings and focus group discussions where we encourage the women to be able to speak up in the group, to even learn how to lead and how to actually make a decision. And we are proud to say that now we can see a few of our women weavers are now actively involved in village organization. I know it seems small for everyone here probably, but for a woman who lives in a village is very amazing for a woman to have like such a role in the organizations or in the community.
Thanks for sharing that. I think that's really encouraging to hear that, I think the changes that you see are not just for this generation, but like what Anil also said, it's, for their families, the next generation, and it just has a huge spillover effect as well. Vanessa, you wanted to share also a little bit about the changes that you have seen, even given the enormity of the problem, as you had talked about. Have you seen, movements and changes in, as you have dived into this work?
Yeah, so I mean, I think us at Freedom Cups, we've been especially lucky with this. I think we are at a spot in time where women are gaining more agency, and a lot of us are standing up and speaking about things that are important to us. And so I think one of the main aims, like I mentioned earlier, about like with Freedom Cups has simply been to start a conversation. To start a conversation about periods. And I think we're very, very cognizant of the fact that if we do not start this conversation, our granddaughters and our daughters will be fighting the same issue. It's the 21st century and we still have women bleeding out onto leaves. And so I think the first step to all of this is recognizing that this is a problem, that it needs to be placed on some agenda or another. And so, I think for us, it's been such a pleasant journey, because I think we've been constantly seeing the needle moving. So, when we first started with Freedom Cups, like people didn't know, what these little things were. They were just so scared of it. They were just so uncomfortable talking about it, so uncomfortable discussing the issue of periods. And I think now, women are so much more comfortable. They come to us, they're like, oh, my best friend's using it. Like my mom was telling me about it, and I think that really makes us feel very happy that we, in some small way, managed to ignite this little conversation. We've also been very, very lucky, because I think, Freedom Cups, we've spoken to about 8 different heads of state now, talking about the importance of getting sustainable periods on the agenda, on the public agenda. We've also been able to work with both the traditional media as well as magazines and online sources to try to get periods a bit more time in the sun, and I think the more all of us speak about periods, it's slightly easier. Like it would be slightly easier to start thinking about like innovation in the field, for example. Like pads and tampons they were invented in the wake of World War II, and there have been no material upgrades to them since. So I think once we start recognizing, as society, we start recognizing that this is an issue, it's something important, it's something that we have to deal with, then I think, it opens the doors to many other opportunities for, periods to be taken a bit more seriously.
So maybe there's an opportunity here for Vanessa to speak to the women in Duk Anyam, in the villages.
Yes, we'd love to.
A collaboration right there. So I think as each of you were talking, I think for many of the audience here, they may be wondering, okay, good for all of you. You've got, I guess in the audience here, we could have, people from the public, maybe other social enterprises out there as well. How can others, join you on this journey? I mean, what are some things that, I guess words of advice or, thoughts for people in the public who might want to play a role in building such communities and empowering women? Are there ways that they can either work alongside you, or any thoughts on that, on how others can be involved in the work that you do? Anil, you want to start us off?
In the next 2 years, 2021 and 2022, I'd like to employ 1,000 of them. Currently, 70% of our staff are females, ladies, and the only way to reach that, to empower them with work, which work brings dignity, dignity brings family, families bring reconciliation, it brings healing, and the whole ecosystem becomes a community. As all those who are willing to come forward to engage us in a business engagement where we can support you in a call center business, please reach out to us. And only by doing that, we could actually reach that milestone of hiring almost 1,000 every 2 years and impacting the community at large. Okay,
so for those of you out there who are have have the ability to hire or to work with, provide jobs from some of these women. I think what Anil is saying is, yeah, provide them opportunities to work for you, or or provide the call center the opportunities to work for you. Yeah, give them opportunities, right? Others?
Yeah, I think in Duanyam's case, like we see financial stability is like a fundamental aspect for every women weavers that we work with to be able to access health services, education, and nutritious foods, right? So by having those extra cash, we encourage the women to actually start to have their own savings to plan for their futures. So, I mean, the easiest thing that any individual or organization, companies can support our mission is to purchase our products so that we can continuously providing social impact, like, economic and social impact to the women that we work with in Indonesia. We are currently also building a digital supply chain platform named Creology to lift up the whole craft industries in Indonesia through mobile apps. So for anyone who is interested in disrupting Indonesia's craft ecosystem, you are all welcome to speak to us after the sessions. And I think another point is actually for any young leaders, young entrepreneurs out there. I think is by having more Duanyam, Agape, and Freedom Cups are very important to this subject to increase all the awareness of women empowerment and change the whole thing together with us.
So Amelia, tell us a little bit, there's some questions there about where people can purchase these products. Are they able to order online? And I think that you're also present here at Festival for Good as well with the marketplace. So can people go to the marketplace and order?
Yes, basically we are in the B2B marketplace section in the Festival for Good, and definitely you can browse our products through our website as well at www.duanyam.com.
Okay, cool. Yeah. I mean, I think just to build on what Milia mentioned also, I think one of the opportunities that we saw amid COVID-19 was really to look at how we can support businesses in transforming. And I think for those in rural communities, for example, I think with Duanyam, what we saw was, we asked ourselves so we put aside something called business transformation grant at DBS Foundation, and we wanted to support businesses who could use a little bit of that money to build a business that would, in a way, be sustainable in the new normal. And with COVID-19, I guess there was all that challenges of like not being able to meet. How do you then? I think you were mentioning about how you could teach. How do you do training of the craftsmen, craftswomen virtually using mobile apps and all that. And we saw, I guess, the opportunity to try to do that even in a rural setting. To try to use technology to improve that whole process so that the business can be scaled and people can still continue their work amidst the lockdown and so on. So that was something that I think we all know that things are not going to go quite back to just normal. And I mean the positive side of that is that hopefully the changes in the business will position your work to be even more sustainable and to be even grow post COVID as well. Turning now to Vanessa.
Yeah, so I mean, for me, it's just echoing what Anil and Milia mentioned earlier. I think it would be for us, firstly, just start a conversation. It requires nothing. But if daughters spoke to their fathers, or if girlfriends or wives spoke to their husbands about their periods, it just makes it slightly easier to break the this like just the shame and the silence and the ignorance and the stigma around it. That'll be the first one. I think the second one would be the second call to action would be to ask women to start. I mean, to just be open to the idea of reusable sanitary products. I think period products in general, like we're talking about pads and tampons, are made almost entirely of plastic. So if we're looking at more sustainable options that might be able to give you more mobility, help you save money, reduce incidences of urinary tract fungal infections, maybe it might be, so just kind of being open-minded enough to explore. And I think the last one would be for communities, we're looking for women here within, given COVID, a lot of our projects overseas have been postponed. So, any marginalized women within Singapore, who need it, we're very, very willing to help. We are trying to, so yeah, if you have any communities that you think could use our help, we would be very, very helpful. It doesn't have to just deal with the cups. We have wipes, we have cleansers, we have all sorts of things. Also, I think if on the piece about advice to budding entrepreneurs or people who want to start an organization, I would say that you should do it. I think it's very simple advice, but Freedom Cups has been one of the best things I've done with my life. It really sets my soul on fire, seeing helping women live slightly easier lives. And I think if all of us kind of aim to leave our little corners of the world in a slightly better shape than when we first entered it, I think life for we would make the world a better place. So I think that's just my 2 cents.
Thank you. Okay, we're going to turn now to some really interesting questions we have in a Q&A. Okay, the first one I picked up here, it says, and I think many of you would have experience in this, right? So it says, how do you engage the men and include them in the empowerment of women in communities? And are there differences between, Singapore and maybe other countries? Do you engage the men and include them? Anil is here. You should be the first one to start. But yeah, any thoughts on this?
Every one of us, right, need a mentor. And mentors play a very, very important part. We have quite a large number of female staff, and myself, right, I position myself as a father. Some are probably older than me, but it's a positioning and the life experience that we bring up. I give you an example. There was this young girl that was in prison. She was serving time, and about when 1 year came to pass, she came to as in the conversation that I was having with her and my wife, we go down and visit them. And this girl is very young. She's 28 years old. She has 7 children. 7 children. And we just look at her and say that she was aspiring to have another one. We were very, very troubled by this. So we went back to the next day, me and my wife, Gita, sit down and talk to her. And we sat her down and say, do you know that what it requires commitment from you to just have another kid? You have 7 children, and 7 children are all the same father. She said, no, not the same father. I said, do you know that this child is very likely going to come back to prison because it's very normal, right? So she was listening to us. So my wife was telling her, she tell her, you see, having a kid, right, without you there, is as good as not having. It's a simple communication like that. We went to visit her again. She doesn't have any. She tell us that I thought of what you all said. No, it's a very simple communication. I thought of what you all said, and I realized that you are right. The same girl here is right now working with us in our city office. She works well, and she's a little bit more responsible now. And when she came in here, the first thing that we told her, can you focus on 2 things and 2 things? Don't focus on the third thing. And we tell her, say what? Focus on your career, focus on your children. And you 1 year, don't even be any man. A simple conversation like that, right, help her to reshape her thought process. So there are many things that around us happen. Oh, this is not my problem. Why I want to be busy? I want to be people go and tell all this. But if you're in the business of it, you want to see transformation of life when people have relationship with people, listen. So myself, I develop a relationship that is healthy, that is fresh, that empowers me, that allows me to talk to them into their lives. If you are a stranger, you want to talk into it, it doesn't process, it doesn't register. So one life at a time, it is possible. It's not impossible. Simple communications are really quite helpful. Simple thing like that. So men play a part.
Thank you. So men out there, you can, I guess what Anil is saying is one life at a time, just listening, having conversations, yeah, and really speaking into the lives of even women around you who might need it. Right? Anyone else has thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think, I think for us, it's been so integral. I think we have been very focused on educating women and girls around their bodies, around their periods, around, like reproductive health, body literacy. But we realize that if we're not educating men and boys at the same time, then 50% of the we're going to be dealing with the same problems moving forward. Generations to come are going to be dealing with the same issues if men and boys also don't change their mind about very basic issues. So I think, like, one of the things that we keep coming up with against with Freedom Cups is that every time we try to move into a new community, especially in more patriarchal societies on the ground, we have the village chiefs who tell us, you can't do this, you can't give it to like women who are not married, for example. You can only give it to women past a certain age or who've had kids. And you've got these rules being set by people who are not experiencing periods, with no access to products or water or toilets. And so we find it absolutely integral to getting men and boys involved in the conversation. And also, I mean, if we're looking, like, we're very aware, we're very cognizant that like our work would always be very localized and very concentrated if we are not able to influence policy. And especially where policies are being debated and being, enacted, we need like representation. You need women to say, hey, like taxing like feminine hygiene products, for example, maybe isn't a good idea. Or like women shouldn't be solely responsible for bearing the cost. And not just about periods, we're looking at like breastfeeding, for example, or contraception, or like there are just so many other knock-on issues, which I think is which is why I think this is such an important question, like where the men and boys come in, and they are absolutely integral to anything that we're trying to achieve. Yeah,
absolutely agree with you. And I think, for those of you out there, maybe you're like myself, I have two sons, two boys, and I think it's very fundamental that even as a mom, right, I want to teach them what it looks like to respect women, to respect women's bodies. Like I think it's some things are as basic as that. I was telling them, I was like, do you understand the word chivalry? What it means to I mean, sometimes it's basic. It sounds basic, right? We take it for granted, but actually it's not basic, sadly, right? And these are the building blocks of society, like you said. It could be, you talk about bigger things like policy making and all that, but it starts with, I mean, being a human being, respecting people.
Exactly.
Women, starts with small building blocks. So, for those of you out there, it's just small things too. The other, maybe turning it to another question here, and it might be, I guess, our last question maybe. There's this question here about early intervention, because I mean, I think a lot of us here and a lot of you really speak about, I mean, addressing the issues that exist, right? The issues that you see, maybe people who are already in prison, and so on. What do you think are some ways that we can move towards early intervention? I mean, maybe what I talked about, like educating your sons, is maybe early intervention. But are there other thoughts you have towards early intervention for uplifting, women and girls in communities and societies? And what do you think are some of these building blocks of early intervention?
The world is reaching out to many people with so many creative platforms. We have this interesting platform where we have got a couple of girls who have gone through pretty bad things in life, but making it good. What we do is that we reach out to certain groups of people and we get them to share their experience. And the deal is like this: 80% of what you share should be not sanitized. Don't share 80% on how you did it. Share the 80% that is unsanitized, that paints the wrong choices, that people realize that, wow, how messy it can be. And it helps engaging, talking to groups of people, small groups. If it's a female environment, it's just female. I don't get involved. I get my wife or someone to organize it, and they come down. She sends her pain point. So they form a small little community, taking strength from each other. This seems to be the most effective way that we apply. It's very helpful to to quite a number of them. This one, I agree with technology, but some or other face-to-face meetup 1 week once, right, has helped us a lot. Last year, we did a 3 months, we called it an alpha program, where everybody met up 1 week once. There are about 8 to 10 of us. And I'm telling you, the end of it, we saw people growing, not just emotionally, mentally, and even spiritually, and even physically in a way that they want to take responsibility. So the face-to-face thing is some or other the most effective. We are just human beings, we want to touch. So we're having a second round of doing this in next year again. It helps. One time of building a community, and the rest is how we continue to keep each other in touch, engaged, so that there's a continuity in what we have started. Not just short circuit in just 1 month and then forget about it. It will just not succeed.
Yeah, I mean, if I could just jump in, I think the earliest intervention would be education. You educate women, and women are, I think there's a common saying that goes, if you educate or you invest in a woman, you are investing in an entire community, you're investing in an entire village, you're investing in an entire family. And I think there's, and then you've got so many statistics about how like educated mothers raise educated children. And so I think education is just a key piece to all of this. Like if we are able to educate our women, about basic, from everything from financial literacy, we're not just talking about like, body literacy, we're talking about everything, like the whole gamut. If we're able to do that, I think you would be moving the needle quite significantly. If we're talking about early intervention and how it would, increase or better health and employment and social economic outcomes, I think education is such an integral piece to all of this.
Agree.
Yes, definitely agree with Vanessa, especially for the education part. On top of that, I think providing opportunities, like laying out the opportunities to the women and also for the young children on like what can they do like when they grow older. I think is what Agape and Duanyam is trying to provide here as well, for the job opportunities for the women, that they actually have an equal opportunities as men to actually work and to gain decision-making power in the family, to gain like financial stability and to be independent. I think that is probably the message, that we should encourage the young women or men, like even in the villages, to see like some sort of like a role model. So we are all here, becoming the role model for every woman out there, and I think that will be the earlier intervention that we can do for the women and children.
My wife told me this story once. When my daughter was very young, I had to carry her just for 5 minutes, and I'll say, wow, please take it. Then I asked her, how come you can carry for hours and I only 5 minutes? They say, you men use muscles, we use the heart. Okay.
Thanks. Well, that's all the time we have today, but thank you so much, Anil, Vanessa, and Melia. Thank you for your time today. But most of all, I think thank you for the work that you do in the communities that you really impact with purpose. I know it's a lot of work, and it's a lot of hard work. And I think it's always really, really inspiring to hear your stories and to see the lives that you've impacted. So it's a real privilege for us, for me personally at DBS Foundation, to be working with each of you. And I'm sure all the participants here have been really encouraged by your speaking today as well. So thank you so much for just all the work that you do, and we really wish you the very best. And we look forward to hearing back again from all of you, more encouraging stories, in the lives of the people that you're impacting. So thank you very much today, and for all the participants here, thank you all very much for your time. Sorry we didn't, we got so engrossed in the conversations, I think we didn't cover many of the questions, but we'll try to get back to you in other ways. So thank you very much, everyone, and have a great afternoon. Thanks.
Thank you, everyone. Thanks for having us.
Thank you all. Indeed, this was a great sharing session, and thank you, panelists and Claire, for the session today. And to the audience, we hope you had a good time today, understanding that actually each of us have a part to play. Either you can start purchasing from Duanyam to empower the women, or also start by educating and advocating for the ladies or the marginalized community around us. So if you wish to connect with any of the panelists today, do feel free to reach out to them via the LinkedIn, which is now being sent in the chat. Do also check out Festival for Good website at festivalforgood.sg for more information and updates on the festival. Last but not least, do join us for our next conversation happening this Wednesday at 4 p.m. on building virtual communities for impact. Thank you for joining us and have a great day ahead.